helping older people be happy in the last chapter in their life. So this first picture, I'll start off with the picture. Janine, my friend, and I started off 2020. We did not realize what kind of year it would be. But geriatricians love stories. We like to hear about what's happened in people's lives. And Janine has a great life story. She spent most of her early adult life starting up Montessori schools in India. And she ended up marrying an Indian man, and she's really a delightful person. So let me stop the sharing, and then you can see me real briefly. Do you see my face? Let's see. Let's see if I can get my face going. So I'm a baby boomer, and I suspect that many of you are too. You know, when I first started being a doctor, everybody said, "You're too young to be a doctor." And I'm sure a lot of us have this same experience, is that time moves really fast. I can still remember my friends from elementary school, and it just seems like just yesterday when I first met my wife on our first date more than 30 years ago. And then, of course, I remember just like yesterday when my daughter was born. So it's a strange feeling that, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I'm a senior myself. So how did all that happen? You know, first of all, there's a lot of us, and second of all, most of us are not dying. It's interesting, in the beginning of the 20th century with the flu, in contrast to COVID, a lot of young people died from that. And people in the beginning of the 20th century did die young. So they died from problems like diarrhea. A lot of mothers died in childbirth. And there were no antibiotics at the beginning of the 20th century. So people died from things like pneumonia and TB. And as we know, things have changed. People don't die from those problems anymore. Nowadays, people don't die from heart disease or even cancer anymore. And so there's many of us that were living longer, and will live to be fairly old and probably frail. So Rosalind Carter said something that is very accurate. We will all eventually be caregivers, our caregivers now, or one day we'll need a caregiver ourselves. And I foresee that in my future, that one day I myself will be frail and will need a caregiver myself. I'm sorry, can you guys hear me? I just want to make sure.
Dr. Wong, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. So I'll figure that out, and in the meantime, I'll just go with the PowerPoint.
Okay.
I myself will one day be frail, and I know what will be very important to me then is one person, and that one person will be the caregiver. So I'm going to show you a video that really shows you what a big difference a caregiver could make. And I'm going to stop screen sharing for just a second. And
Warren,
so,
we cannot see the video or anything
There you
on
go.
the screen.
He's on now.
The second U.S. presidential debate has officially been canceled. The event was set to be held online this Thursday. Organizers were forced to scrap these plans after President Donald Trump rejected the format. The schedule for the debate was thrown into disarray after Trump tested positive for coronavirus. The Commission on Presidential Debates announced the event would be held.
Dr. Wong leave?
No, he's setting up his video.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Organized other events for Thursday. The commission officials say that third debate scheduled for October 22nd won't go ahead as planned.
can you guys see the video?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Hang on, I thought you were seeing it the whole time.
If you go to the bottom of your screen where it says mute or stop video, if you'll hit the stop video thing and let it come on. Do you see that button at the bottom?
Yeah, actually I don't. Kathy, hang on for just a second.
Okay.
There you are.
Oh, he's on there. He's on.
There you are.
Hey, oh,
I'm so sorry about that. I thought you were on the whole time.
No, that's fine. Technical glitches.
Can you see it now?
We can see it, yes, but there's no video. I mean, there's no audio.
Dr. Wong, I'm wondering maybe you could share the link in the chat and then people can see the video later because I think there's some issues on lag and freezing and audio on that in the video.
I'm so disappointed because I tried setting this up last night.
Well, it is
Okay.
2020, Dr. Wong.
Yeah, so sorry about that. So let's just go back to the slides. It's a slide about a young lady who lives in Georgia, and she's taking care of her grandfather, and she gives him so much love that it's very clear, undoubted actually, that uh, he's happy. And the point I wanted to make about that slide, uh, hang on, my wife just told me that I'm still not showing my slide. Can you see? Hmm. Hang on for just a second.
Yeah, it's on.
I'm going to try and share my screen again. Okay. Uh, okay. Okay. You do see that screen now. So this lady, um, she's really exceptional, and it's too bad you can't see the video. Um, but you know, a lot of people would look at a person like her and say, "I'm not that person." And as a physician, I would agree with them. You're not that person. So I spend a lot of time as a geriatrician trying to find out who is the caregiver and what is that caregiver's story. So these situations that you see here, I'm taking care of my mom, but I'm also getting chemotherapy for breast cancer. Or another statement, my father was never a very good person. Those are actually fairly common kinds of statements. And what I'm hearing nowadays more and more is that COVID is just making things much worse. And I've heard stories about caregivers saying, you know, my father was never a very good person. And as you listen to the story, you realize that there's truth in that the father indeed was a pretty rough father. And how do you respond to that? And a lot of the story is not just about the patient, it's also about the caregiver. So in a lot of ways, a geriatrician's like a pediatrician. We need to pay attention. The pediatrician needs to pay attention to the child and to the parents, and the geriatrician needs to pay attention to both the patient and the caregiver. So my talk today is going to be in three parts. You could be the person on the far left who actually is just totally disgruntled about being a caregiver. Uh, just just does not understand at all why that's her role. And that will be the beginning part of my talk. And then there's a larger percentage of people who accept the role of being a caregiver, but actually find it fairly difficult and a lot of challenges, and that's represented by the person in the middle. And I'll spend a little time talking about um, some some thoughts I have uh, to support that person. And then lastly, on the right-hand side is we have the happy caregiver who um, is in a flow state, enjoys being a caregiver. And for that person, I'll just say, well, here's some thoughts that I have and some things that you might find interesting.
Dr. Wong, people are
Yeah.
having difficulty hearing you. Could you talk a little bit louder?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
That's a little better. Yeah.
Okay. I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay, and Kathy, just let me know whenever there's any technical problems.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next slide is, how did I get stuck with this? And that tends to not have a very good answer. I can give you philosophical answers to that question, um, but what people really need is to come to their own, from inside themselves, their emotional answer to that question. And fortunately for most of us, there's a center of gravity, kind of a magnetic pole that we all want to be happy. And what interferes with that is that when we are not happy with what's happened, and the longer we feel that way, the more stuck we are, the more unhappy we are. And then gradually there's a pull towards saying, I need to accept what I have and be happy with that. So the person at the bottom has won the lottery, and winning the lottery is extremely uncommon. So what that means is that going through life without challenges is very uncommon. Now on the upper right hand side, you see some cards, and if you're a poker player, you realize those are not very good cards. Um, and that's a little bit about what life is like. Uh, I'll tell you a little story. It's personal. My daughter this year with all, and this is a common story, uh, was laid off from a position that was a dream job for her 5 years ago. Those were the cards that were given to her. And, um, things are turning out pretty good. And I think that most of us have had some bad cards dealt to us in life. The interesting thing is that in poker, the best hand wins 20% of the time. So what that means is that it's important in life to deal with the cards that you have. So that's the statement from the on the left part of this slide is basically how will you respond to your life challenges. You must be willing to let go of the life you had planned and discover what your life journey leads to now. So as a caregiver, most people did not, uh, a lot of people don't think that caregiving is a part of their life. And it just happens sometimes all of a sudden a person becomes acutely ill and then needs caregiving. And it is a path that we all need to take. And um, it's it's a chapter in a patient's life, but it's also a chapter in the caregiver's life. And the question is, how will you respond to that chapter? Now, uh, there are a lot of things we can do, and these are three different things. First of all, uh, don't run on empty. And there's a thing called me time, time for me, and that should really be reserved. I'll tell you another story of a patient I heard about very recently. She has a high stress job. Her husband is disabled. Uh, she lives. Her two married children live with her. None of them have jobs right now. And so she's the sole breadwinner and the caregiver, and she preserves me time for herself. Every Friday at 9 p.m., she talks with a friend. Now, me time doesn't have to be anything in specific. It doesn't have to be meditation. Uh, but be whatever that just tells yourself that you're taking care of yourself. So me time, the simplest version of me time is just take a big breath. In any kind of catastrophic situation, you just want to stay alive. And breathing is part of staying alive. Take a big breath. Or do other things that will keep you from running on empty. Because if you're running on empty, you are not gonna help make any other person happy. If you're not happy yourself, it's not possible to help make another person happy. So other things that a person might do is just read a book, a journal, or walk the dog. You can just pick out an activity that is just me time to let you know this is for me. Second thing is don't be alone. And it's important not to be isolated. And this woman who at 9:30 at night on Friday, or 9 at night on Friday, reaches out to a friend, it just makes a world of difference. Lastly, ask for help. A lot of times I'll hear from caregivers that no one will help. And sometimes it's just a matter of you need to keep on asking. And sometimes you knock on a door and ask for help and that person won't help. Sometimes you just need to knock somewhere else. And the other thing is that sometimes caregivers will say, you know, that person's willing to help, but they're not very helpful. They won't do it the way I want them to do it. Well, that is, that's kind of limiting, and you do really need to get the help that you can. So that's my little section on people who just really have a hard time accepting the role of being a caregiver. I've spent sometimes my entire consult and follow-up visits just talking with caregivers and providing them support, and I do think it makes a difference. And this one site, caregiverdave.com, is pretty good for people who just feel totally burned out. There's a statement that he made himself. You've probably felt like giving up, like I almost did, because I was in solitary confinement. There he's isolated and he's burned out, and he says he's in caregiver prison. So he took care of his wife, who became disabled fairly at middle age, and he's really stepped up to the challenge and provided a lot of work in this arena. And you can find out more about him in caregiverdave.com. So now I'm gonna.
Hi.
I'm going to now show you a video.
Tuesday. Yeah, cause at what time was it? 9:30. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Please mute yourself, everybody. Thank you.
So this video, and Kathy, please let me know if they can't see it.
Okay.
This video is about some people who are experts on how hard it is to be happy when you're living with dementia. But as you watch the video, I think you'll agree with me that they've succeeded.
Can you imagine trying to express yourself about your family or your activities, and the words are not there that you have depended on all your life? You feel abandoned by your life, by your words. Everything just seems to go scary, and it is frustrating, and you need to ask people to help you.
Anytime you can talk openly about anything, it's a positive experience for all parties. A lot of people won't do that. People just sort of go within themselves and they don't talk. And I think that's a big mistake.
People have to learn to be a little more tolerant than they may have been at one time.
Well, just remember that we're human beings. It could happen to anybody.
If you sense that a person has a need and they're open to it, you should do something about that. You can't ignore it and, be an ass.
Be patient, that's all, with yourself and with the people you're trying to communicate with.
Listening. Listening. It's a good thing.
To all those folks with memory loss, do not give up hope. Do not be frightened.
It's important to be able to laugh at myself. I think humor is probably as good a medicine as there is, and I absolutely love it.
Let your light shine. You'll be glad you did. That may seem kind of syrupy, but the fact is it's the truth.
The world and ourselves needs compassion to see it through.
So these are people who are living with dementia, and I think they have a very important message. And their message that video was made a number of years ago, and chances are high that they're not able to communicate as well now as they did then.
Dr. Wong,
Yes?
your sound has gone down again.
Okay. Chances are that they're not able to communicate as well now as they did when they did the video. And but they made some very important points about happiness. And I'll go to my next slide. And I think if you wanted to summarize it in one phrase, is that happiness, it's not about giving people food they like. It's not even about gifts of service. It's about communicating with love. And I'll talk about communicating with love from 3 different angles. First of all, the concept of just reaching out to somebody with love. And then secondly, the concept of dignity. And thirdly, the concept of enjoying life. Can you hear me, Kathy?
Barely, Dr. Wong.
Okay.
I believe it would help the sound quality if everybody who is in the audience would mute. Then there would be less background.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it's not loud. I mean, it's not, it's, try again. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I'll talk loud now.
There you go.
The first concept is about connecting. And connecting, I'll go back to some principles that the Alzheimer's Association uses. Connection means a different thing for different stages of dementia. And as I'm talking, among you caregivers, I want you to think about, who are you taking care of? Are you taking care of a person with relatively mild dementia, a person who's at moderate stage, or a person who has severe dementia? And it's listed here, but a person with mild dementia, you may see him on the street and you may not realize that anything is wrong at all. Physically, he or she is fairly normal. If you get into a detailed conversation, the person may appear not able to remember information. And this kind of person will start to have difficulties managing their financial affairs and taking care of themselves totally with tasks such as grocery shopping and transportation and planning the day. A different stage is a moderate stage where it's more clear and fairly obvious that a person has memory problems. When they talk, the sentences are shorter, and sometimes they'll have a difficult time understanding. And frequently, they won't walk completely normally, and they may need some assistance with things like putting on clothes, bathing. And then there's the most severe stage in which there's very little speech, and ambulation is severely impaired, maybe in a wheelchair or mostly bedbound, and very dependent, really needing hands-on physical care of another person. So as you can imagine, connecting with these three different stages of dementia, or kind of in between those different stages of dementia, the correct level of connection is going to be different for each person. So now I'm going to show you some videos from a person named Ann Basting. And just in case, these are TED Talks, which I split up. And Ann also has a book called Creative Care. And before I was talking about Caregiver Dave, he's very good at addressing issues of caregiver burnout. Ann Basting is amazing at talking about how to communicate and communicate with love. And let me try and get to those videos right now. So this first video is about communicating with someone with relatively mild dementia. And when you communicate with someone with relatively mild dementia in a loving way, the challenge is when something happens that surprises you, and it surprises you enough that you yourself can become a little flustered. And Anne talks about that first situation. Let's just see how she handles this.
At a family dinner over the holidays, my mother, who was seated next to me, turned to me and said, "Where's Annie?" My funny and beautiful and feisty mother had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I found myself in that place that everyone dreads. She didn't recognize me. And I had to figure out fast if I could do what I'd been coaching thousands of other people to do, to connect across that gap. "Do you mean Ellen?" I said, because my sister's empty chair was just right across the table from us. She just went to the bathroom. And my mother looked at me, and then something deep inside sparked. And she reached out and smiled and touched my shoulder. And she said, "You're right there." And I said, "Yes, I am right here."
So Anne is making the important point of when you're conversing with a person who has dementia, there's people with dementia have still very strong sense of the emotions behind things. And if a person, if a caregiver hears a patient with dementia talking about something which surprises them, you lose the zone of safety and comfort when the caregiver is not able to handle that in a calm manner. I realize that's not easily done, and it does really illustrate how, rather than saying something like, "You don't need, I'm right here, Mom," or "Mom," those kinds of responses erase the emotional safety in a relationship. Now, the second video that Anne is going to do is one about people who are more impaired, who have some difficulty talking. And listen very carefully to how she approaches creating happiness in a situation like this.
Family members, when they try to connect, most commonly will invoke a shared past. We say things like, "Do you remember that time?" But 9 times out of 10, the pathway for that one answer to travel in the brain is broken. And we're left alone with a loved one in the fog. But there is another way in. I call them beautiful questions. A beautiful question is one that opens a shared path of discovery. With no right or wrong answer, a beautiful question helps us shift away from the expectation of memory into the freedom of imagination, 1,000 possible responses for people with cognitive challenges. Now, back in the kitchen, I did know one thing about Jim. I knew that he liked to walk along Lake Michigan. And when I looked around that kitchen, I saw over by the stove this trunk that was just covered in little pieces of driftwood. And I thought, I'll try a question that he could answer without words. So I tried, "Jim, can you show me how water moves?" It was silent for a while, but then really slowly, he took a step over to that trunk and he picked up a piece of the driftwood and he held it out. And then very slowly, he began to move his arm, leading with that driftwood. In his hand, it became buoyant, in sync with the motion of the waves that he made with his arms. It began this slow journey across calm waters, this gentle rolling to the shore. Transferring his weight from left to right and back again, Jim became the waves.
So, can you hear me now, Kathy?
Dr. Wong, can you try without your headphone and see if that works better?
Can you hear me now?
Barely.
Okay. How about now? Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
So, Anne talked about for people who have a little bit more problem communicating, she talks about asking magical questions. And a simple way of thinking about magical questions is there's no wrong answer. So it might be a question of, do you like vanilla or chocolate ice cream or strawberry? Or it might be, do you like this flower or do you like that flower? And those are the magical questions. Now Anne is going to talk a little bit about severely communication impaired and people where even simple language is fairly difficult to understand. How would you create happiness in that situation?
I was there to visit my grandmother, Alice. She was a very powerful woman who had lost a battle with a stroke that stole her ability to speak. Alice had just 3 forms of communication left. She had this sound that was like tss, 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 that she could shift in tone from emphatic, no, 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 to enticing, yes, you've almost got it. She had an incredibly expressive index finger, which she could shake and point with frustration. And she had these enormous pale blue eyes that she could open and close for emphasis. saying, wide open seemed to say, yes, you've almost got it. And closing slowly was, well, it didn't really need much translation.
So the point Anne is making here is that for people who may not be able to communicate really well verbally, pick up on the emotional signs. And I think we all know that what she says about when her grandmother looks with her blue eyes and she looks happy, or when she looks with her blue eyes and she looks disgusted. And as caregivers, we need to be able to pick up those cues. And if a person is able to express sadness, then we mirror that sadness. It looks like you're feeling sad.
Dr. Wong, louder, please.
Okay. Okay, secondly, so in terms of connection, the second thing to do is to embrace, is to uh, communicate with dignity. That means to embrace the person that is in front of you now. Can you hear me, Kathy?
It's still kind of low, Dr. Wong.
Okay, let me try without the microphone and see if it's better, okay?
That was better right there. Yeah.
No?
Try talk.
Can you hear me better? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, when you're right close to the screen.
Is this better now or is not better now?
Can you take the headphones off and just try talking to your computer?
So it's important to embrace the person who's in front of you now, not the person you remember. So comments like, do you remember when? If the person clearly is not likely to remember that, that decreases the feeling of dignity a person will have, knowing that they do not know the answer to a question. So we need to let go of the person that was there before and embrace the person, their emotions, who are there now. And emotional connection means that if a person feels sad, you don't tell the person, don't feel sad. It's important to embrace whatever emotion the person does have. If the person feels angry, it's okay to say, it looks like you're feeling angry. And if you don't do that, it's very likely the person will stay angry longer and also remember a bad emotional experience, because all of a sudden you've made that person feel alone in their emotions. Second is to communicate well with dignity, and the concept of not infantizing talk, not doing baby talk, and talking at the level of the person, even if it's just through eyes. And the last concept is touching a person. We all know of children who are not touched and then become extremely emotionally detached. So it's really important that caregivers touch their patients. Now, some patients do not like to be touched. The most emotionally neutral place to touch a person is on the elbow. A light touch on the elbow is the most neutral place to touch a person and catch a person's attention and provide some physical contact. I'm now going to show you some videos. Keepusnow.com is an expert on activities and communications, and Dorothy Colby works at Hau'oli is a trainer in the positive approach to care. I'm going to show you the video now.
Everybody doing the best they can. The people who are living with dementia are doing the best they can every moment of the day. But so are we as caregivers. We really are. And caregiving is a stressful job and role in life in normal times. But in COVID-19, I mean, all of our stress levels have gone sky high. And so that makes the job of loving caregiving even harder. So I would encourage people to take a moment. I always make this timeout symbol, timeout. Take a deep breath and care for yourself, because caring for yourself is as important as the care you're giving for the person that is at home with you. You're in this together. Your life and your health is as important as the person that you're caring for. And for all you do, some things will work really great. You might take some of these tips. It really helps. And other times it might not still. There will be those times that are not just challenging, but aggravating and tearful and scary sometimes. Those times will still come. But just if you find yourself butting heads over, and you're saying the same thing over and over again, and so are they, stop, take a step back, step away if you can.
I was there to visit my grandmother.
Thank you for considering it, or thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you mad. I'm sorry, but thank you. And then take a step away. Try to end the interactions in a positive way, and then give yourself the time and space to breathe. Because it's not easy. Take care of yourself. Just like to say, put on the airplanes back when we all used to fly places. Put your oxygen mask on first before. Yeah, because this is not a sprint. It's a marathon, and so is this COVID-19.
So, I have a story to tell you. It's about ending the day well. And Dorothy talks about that a little bit. It's about making the end of your day good. So the Nobel Prize winner in economics did an experiment in which people put their hand in ice cold water for either 60 seconds or 90 seconds. Now you would think that the person who put their hand in ice cold water for 60 seconds would have a better memory of their experience than the person who put their hand in ice cold water for 90 seconds. That turned out not to be true. And the reason was, when they put the person's hand in ice cold water for 90 seconds, they followed that by putting the hand in warm water for 30 seconds. So what that means, and this was an important principle, is that we remember how things end. So if the day ends well, even if it's a hard day, your memory of it will be better. If you can think of the analogy of a couple who goes on vacation in Hawaii and it rains every day and the hotel is not as nice as they thought and their reservations get canceled and everything else, they won't remember that if at the very end of the vacation, the boyfriend proposes marriage to the girlfriend. What they'll remember is what happened at the end. And so that's an important point about happiness that Dorothy makes, is try to end every day well. Now, the other thing that makes people happy is praise. And that's pretty normal. So the praise I would want now for myself is, Warren, the audio visual on that presentation did not go at all like you had hoped. But people still got something out of it. They still enjoyed it. And you tried your best. If I got that praise, I would be a little bit happier, despite the fact that after all this is over, I said, darn it, this didn't go well at all.
Doing great.
I'm glad that you can hear me now without the microphone, because I can hear your laughter.
Good.
And that's what it's all about. It's about having fun. And here's a picture I took of a patient. You have beautiful fingernails. Can I take a picture of them? And she just loves painting her fingernails. Here's another picture that this could be one of those magical question kind of questions. Whose hair do you like? There's this thing I'm thinking about doing with caregivers. It's called the Crazy Hair Day. We used to do that when we were kids. And so there's some crazy hair day, and this would be fun. Now, at the very beginning, I showed you this slide, this video show of people talking about their experiences with dementia and how they struggle for dignity and connection and happiness in those situations. Now, they are all from a group called MomentiaSeattle.org. MomentiaSeattle.org is really meant for people with relatively mild dementia. But as you can see, it's a virtual gathering place, and right now, in the month of October, the sessions are free. So a real advantage of Zoom. On the left, you can see that they're having dementia-friendly meditation. They have dementia-friendly yoga, and they have improvisational theater that is dementia-friendly. Now, I'm at the part of the talk that is really about just some hints that you can use. There is a store called thealtstore.com, and they do have a number of different things that are good ideas to basically for activities for people with Alzheimer's. And this radio that you see here, it's a one-button radio. This one is actually from Amazon, but all you do is press the button and it goes on and off at the correct volume. And the other thing it does is that these kinds of radios can also have USB drives inside, so that you can put a person's favorite music together and just play it, and the person with dementia knows how to turn it on and turn it off. The Alt Store also has things like puzzles for various stages of dementia. And a very common thing is the use of an apron. And these things you can make yourself. They're also for sale at the alt store, but you can definitely make it yourself. For people who were handymen before, you can put tools inside, and this is pretty popular among some people with dementia. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the things I've been involved in. Over the last couple months, I've created a website called COVID-19caregiving.com. The whole concept of this website, which gets regular updates, and it's free, you can just go and just look at it. It's a couple of concepts. It's number one, that the caregiver is really important in the lives of older people. And we need to provide support for the caregiver. There's 3 dimensions that I really emphasize. One is a little bit of caregiver education, general things like what to look for, what the meaning is of a temperature, why it's important to have good personal hygiene. Does a person with dementia need to wear a mask? Things like that. There's some caregiver hints. The second thing is just to let people know that I support them. And I think their work is very important. And the third thing eventually is to develop a community where people can just spend maybe 5 minutes a day and just communicate with each other. So this concept of having a bad hair day might be something that people could just send pictures in of whoever they're taking care of and send in. This is my picture that I posted today as my bad hair day photo. So just some concepts that I've been working on. Another thing I'd like to tell you about is an app that I've developed. You can find out more about it at memoriesconnect.com. And the app, I need a lot of help with it. The first question people ask is it only on Apple? And the answer to that is yes. At this point, it's only on Apple for a variety of reasons. It's mostly a prototype. And it works on both the iPad and the iPhone. And I'm putting my email address here because if you're interested, if you have an iPad or an iPhone, and it does cost 99 cents a month, I'm really interested in people's responses because I want to make the product better and better. So if you're interested in helping me create a better product, please take down my email address. You can also take down my email address for any questions in general that we don't cover today, and just ask me about it. So I'm going to show you a little video that describes Memories Connect just a little bit.
Well. 30 years, and even founded its geriatrics program with an edict to make sure you take care of your older people, or kapuna, with dignity.
Dr. Warren Wong retired 5 years ago, but as Kathy Muneno tells us, he's just getting started with a new venture.
I just love geriatrics, and it's about not just taking care of a disease, but it's about taking care of people.
And he's still doing so through an app. Dr. Warren Wong created the Memory app with an emphasis on memories and connections.
My dream is that people with dementia, Alzheimer's disease can live dignified lives in which they still feel valued and connected and still have a lot of fun.
This is just part of the app, short videos to remind those with dementia or Alzheimer's of events in their life.
I remember a lot of things from when I was young. I was young once.
There are games to stimulate the mind, which Dr. Wong says can make a big difference even though there is no cure for the disease.
The app is designed to recognize the abilities of the person with Alzheimer's disease so that it gets a little bit harder if the person is doing it, figuring everything out very easily. And it also gets a little bit easier if the answers are hard. But what it does is it exercises the brain.
Memory is personalized, reinforcing memories and connections with friends, loved ones who can send and receive photos, reminding those with dementia and Alzheimer's that they're loved, relevant, important, also helping prevent loneliness, frustration, sadness, loss of a sense of self.
Another part that I'm really excited about is to allow people with dementia to do the same thing we do every day. So we get text messages, we get photos.
There's a section on emotions.
We have one piece which is about emotional validation, in which we ask a person if they're feeling happy or sad. And the most important thing is to let that person know that we're with them, whatever their emotion is.
The caregiver is here to support, so our hands would shift this way.
Dr. Wong aims to help caregivers as well with tips on caregiving, ideas for daily projects, how to manage certain behaviors.
We can't take away the disease. We can't take away the fact that the disease is progressive. But let's do what we can do, and let's support the caregivers who are in the center of the lives of those living with Alzheimer's and dementia.
So that's a little bit of a promo. I'm really looking forward to getting some help from people to make the app better and better. And we did talk about videos. So I'm going to show you a short video about Halloween. And it's designed to communicate with a person who has relatively mild dementia. And it doesn't force an older person who has memory problems to remember things. It just invites them to remember things. And if they do, that's fine. If they don't, it is a gentle reminder for them. And I start off this video with this mention that, for instance, it is now October. And this video was actually taken last year, before COVID. I talk about, well, it's October and there are 3 big holidays in October. There's Halloween, 3 big holidays in October, November, December. There's Halloween, and in November there's Thanksgiving with the turkey, and at Christmas there's Christmas and the Christmas tree. And I make those statements, and the person with dementia, those statements are reinforced in the person's brain, and the person with dementia says, of course, I remember those things. Now I'll show you the video about Halloween.
This is from Lobster King, Alan, last night. Our favorite.
Then,
Hi, Dr. Ward.
do you know what the holidays are?
But the lobster.
What I'm going to look like when I'm an old man. I'm an old man now.
102 at least.
Oh, what's your name?
My name's Suzanne. Are you still Dr. Warren?
My name is Dr. Warren. Do you like to play bingo?
I used to play bingo, but not so much.
Do you like to play bingo? Oh, you like to play bingo?
G47.
B8. But you can be old and still have fun. So that is my attempt at hoping that you have a little bit of fun today. I did want to go over the test, the test, and I'm hoping you took it at the very beginning. But when I look at the test, it actually makes the main points that I'm trying to communicate today about happiness. Which of the following is not key to being a good caregiver? Embrace the role of being a caregiver. You actually do have to do that. If you don't embrace the role, if you're unhappy being a caregiver or you resist it, the person who's being taken care of will sense that. Have a good ability to communicate with the person with dementia. And that is about not just providing services and taking care of them physically, but really to point out that a lot of happiness is about communication. And thirdly, to reach out for tools. And I've suggested some various websites for you: the Alzheimer's Store, the Caregiver Dave, Tipa Snow, and then my own COVID-19caregiving.com. Now, so the correct answer about what is not key, it's not essential that you meditate. It is important that you take time for yourself in whatever way really fits for you. That's the me time I was talking about. Which of the following is not a good way to interact with a person with memory problems? Providing praise when things are done well, that actually is an important thing to do. It helps a person with their sense of dignity and self. So when you catch your caregiver doing something well, you thank them or you praise them. End the day on a happy note. And that was the analogy I was using, which is actually a well-known scientific study. Is if you put your hand in frozen water, finish the day off by putting it in warm water. When an incorrect statement is made, tell the person with memory problems that he, she is wrong. Now, that's not a good way to interact with a person with dementia. And then lastly, communicate at the level of the person. And a person who's relatively high functioning, you can talk at a conversational level, laugh about things, don't be surprised. And Tipa Snow really is very good at providing some pearls about that. If a person is relatively speech limited, use pictures, alter alternatives. Try to avoid yes/no questions and go with either/or questions. And then for the person who is severely impaired vocally, communicate with your eyes and with gentle touch. Which of the following is not true? Improvements are needed in the Memory app. That is definitely true. And it's only available in the Apple App Store. Okay? There are good products available at the altstore.com. That's true too. And it's good to just look in there because I've noticed that you get ideas in there and then you can find the same thing sometimes on Amazon. Most caregivers are born angels. That's false. Okay? There are angels who are unhappy angels, and angels are people who rise to the challenge and become angels through adversity. So that's the one that you want to mark off as not true. And then Tipa Snow is a website that discusses positive approach to care. She's well known. And COVID-19caregiving.com is my own website in which I'm interested in providing hints and eventually developing a community. And again, here's my email address. Please feel free to ask me about anything. And I'm so sorry about all the technical issues. Kathy, that's the end of my talk. Were there any questions that came up aside from how do I turn up my volume?
There were several comments. One was, it would be great to have someone talk about how different it is to have a family member in a care home that has lockdown in place with only maybe FaceTime weekly as a visiting tool. You see a lot of decline in helplessness watching, helplessly watching this. Did that come out right? Did you?
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot of difficulty. I actually was taking care of some patients this week, and one of my patients actually has COVID-19 and is in a nursing facility and is not doing that well. And his family isn't visiting. We're restricted from visiting as well. And the virtual encounters, it's not really quite the same. One of the problems that's very common is the hearing is not that good. Sometimes just like we're experiencing today, the telecommunications are not that good. And there's the communication of warmth and touch that makes a difference. So this person that is not doing that well with COVID, I would have given the world to be able to just, hold his hand and talk with him from his heart, my heart to his heart. And it was hard to do that. I don't know what the answer is to that question, but I do think that especially, for people with dementia, it is more difficult to communicate via, it's much more difficult to communicate via technology.
Okay. The next one says, Dr. Wong, I always learn something new from you each time we meet and enjoyed the session. Don't worry about the audio video stuff.
Thank you. That makes me happy. Thank you for making me happy.
Okay, the next question is, can you suggest ways to engage someone who doesn't want to do anything?
That's a hard question. And I think, when people ask me those questions as well, let's just explore that. Part of it is that, does the person have an underlying depression? And that is a kind of a go-to kind of thing that many physicians will do. I'm actually a little bit conservative about using antidepressants, but when I do get a sense that there really is an underlying significant degree of depression, I will use antidepressants, but I will explore things. And a lot of things about working with people with dementia is doing things together. It's not about, here, you do this, here you eat. So it's about doing it in partnership, like, let's eat. I'm going to eat and you're going to eat. And you're not, one of the things about dignity is that middle zone between not contacting and contacting too much. Because a patient does not want to feel like you're staring at them, that you're just focusing them on as, this is who I'm focusing on and I'm taking care of that person. Then there's pressure on that person. It's a lot more about, let's play together and you join in when you want to join in and you try different things and then see if person wants to join in. So it's kind of like if you have a gift for a child and you want the child to start playing with it right away, they may not. So what you do is you take the gift, you open it up and you start playing with it yourself. And then you try and find out different things, and then you try and find out what really resonates for this person. Unfortunately, for people with dementia, a lot of times, once they find something they really like, they may use it over and over again.
Okay. Someone just saw a dementia talk promoting that music as a way to relieve agitation in dementia patients.
Yeah, I definitely believe that's true. So there are these music boxes that you can buy, and you can download music and play the same music over and over again with that one simple button. And music, definitely, there's actually a lot of solid data about music there. And that requires, you have to go back with our app. There's
You're breaking up a little bit, Dr. Wong. I don't know what's going on. Uh-oh. Well, I'll read some of these thank yous to you while you're getting back online here. Great information. Please, could you please send the link to the video from the start of the program, the one on PBS? So Dr. Wong, if you'll send that to me, I'll forward it on. And thank you, Dr. Wong. You gave us so many great suggestions. I learned a lot. Thank you, Dr. Wong. This is very helpful. Great words of wisdom. Dr. Wong, I really got a lot out of your presentation. It has motivated me to be a more loving caregiver. Thank you for a great and helpful session. Mahalo, Dr. Wong. Your presentation was helpful and interactive. Love the videos, great tips and revealing for me. I need to work on many things. I will use the resources you shared, and I just downloaded your app. I will do what I can to help you. Mahalo. Dr. Wong, I'm not giving care to anyone yet, but it's good to have all these tips and tools when the time comes. When my mom seems depressed, I play videos from our family's past events and she perks right up. That's a great idea. Tony says, thank you very much. We're all having problems with tech these days, so no worries. Your approach, knowledge, and apparent bedside manner is simply special. Mahalo, Dr. Wong. How do you respond to the complaint, I want to die, too hard to live, my leg hurts, no sense living, etc.? Are you back on, Dr. Wong?
Yes, I am. And it's really important not to negate people's emotions, because when you negate a person's emotions, they lose dignity. They lose that what they feel counts. So when a person just says, I want to die, sometimes it's just letting that statement sit there for a while. Sometimes if a person's about to cry, you hand them a box of tissues to let them know it's okay. And then sometimes you just give a hug. And all these messages that you understand, and that you also realize you're not in their shoes. And that's about what you can do. And you kind of have to strongly resist the urge to say, don't say that. Because don't saying that very likely will embed that thought deeper into their brain. Because you've just given them emotional reinforcement, because what you've done is you've ingrained it as a deeper thought in their brain. Sometimes people say things like that, and the next day they don't even remember they said that. And it's just a passing thought. It's a way of expressing an emotion. I think that's a lot different if a person says it every day and then makes it clear that that's truly what they want. Then I think it's really important to get some counseling and professional help, just to kind of read through all that and try and approach it as a team of all of us. And I did want to let all of you know who are caregivers is that, you know, if you're a caregiver, just know that, you know, I may not be there with you all the time, but, you know, your work's really to support you. And I think the other thing is that when people chime in and says, I do this or I do that, that's exactly what people should be doing. They should be talking with each other, because you guys are a community. You're not all alone.
Okay. What are your thoughts on vitamin B12 supplements? They heard on a recent talk to give B12 500 micrograms daily to help memory. Do you just give if B12 supplement if B12 level low, or what?
Yeah, so there's no harm in B12. there's this old adage that a young doctor says, well, your B12 level isn't low. You don't need it. And then the middle-aged doctor says, well, it can't hurt you. Why don't you go ahead and take it? And then the older doctor says, yeah, go ahead and take it. It helps. So I'm kind of middle-aged. What is considered therapeutic B12 levels was based on blood studies. It wasn't based on its impact on personality or memory. So those levels of what's called a normal B12 level is based on blood studies. It's not about its impact on cognition. There is no such thing as B12 toxicity in any reasonable range of B12. So 500 micrograms of B12 is not going to hurt anybody. That said, there's the occasional person it helps. B12 deficiency is actually very common in older people. It's especially common in people who are taking antacids like Tagamet, Zantac, because it deacidifies the stomach and then the B12 absorption is decreased. The kinds of impact that B12 sometimes will have is a little bit on personality, a little bit on emotional state, probably not a lot on cognition.
My mother loves music. I use Pandora. I put in a genre of music that she likes, like Hawaiian music. She loves it, and she loves to dance too. That's good. Thank you for the great resources. Thanks for the rich information. Got a lot of good tips. I know I will be a better caregiver as a result of attending your presentation. Any insights as to whether MCTs from coconut oil are helpful or not?
I actually don't have a lot of insight into that. A lot of different things are touted for Alzheimer's disease. I think the Western way of thinking about things is always based on population studies and is there a net effect in a large number of people. Now that doesn't mean, that's a little bit different from saying whether it's going to help any individual one person.
A lot of thank yous, and I won't read all of them, but I'm making copies of it. Regardless of the audio challenges, it was very helpful information, and we'll be looking into your Memory C app.
Thank you so much. And then aside from just looking into it, I really would like it if you email me with suggestions and with just any kind of question. And then I would really like it if you're interested in becoming kind of a person to talk with and say, you know, I have this suggestion for the app to make it better. I have that suggestion. All those things would be helpful.
Dr. Wong, thank you very much. I enjoy your energy and spirit. Do you facilitate a caregivers group anywhere, online, anywhere?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad to do those kinds of things. I'm glad to do the things that I never had time to do before. You know, so this is a different chapter in my life, but it's a different chapter. But I think the same thing resonates for me as, you know, it's really important that that last chapter in life is a happy one. And so, you know, I'm just a little bit of a guide. The main players are the person who's older and the caregiver. Those are the main characters. The caregivers are essential, and I'm just really always glad to help guide that along.
Okay. Maybe I could invite you to our next caregiver support group that I have via Zoom the first Monday of every month. So if anybody's interested in joining that caregiver support group, email me and I'll put you on the list. And then Dr. Wong, if you would like to join us next month, I can send you the link as well.
Sure, sure. And then I'll be more of a participant because, you know, I thought I was an expert at Zoom because I'm in so many different talks. Now it got complicated because one thing I found out is that when I embed the video inside the PowerPoint, the quality of the video is not as good. So I pulled it out of the PowerPoint and put it separate. But then last night, everything seemed to be working perfectly. But now, you know, I have a little bit of adversity. I got a joker in my deck of cards today, and somehow I made it through. So.
Murphy's Law, yes. Okay. I think what I have learned is asking magical questions. Avoid asking, do you remember? My aim is to learn all I can while in Honolulu, learn about dementia. Thanks for sharing your life's work in a nutshell. The next one says, I have been waiting for your expertise in my role as a caregiver for my mother. Mahalo. David says, on Instagram and Facebook, I have seen this this protein supplement advertised to help with dementia and Alzheimer's. Do these types of supplements work, and how do you feel about them?
I guess the bottom line is I don't take a lot of supplements, but I don't really discourage people. I think they're coming under increased scrutiny, and I think probably the question that when I'm in a clinical office, the last question I usually ask is, oh, how much does it cost? You know, so I mean, if it's very expensive, and you know, you may think twice about it. So.
Okay. Somebody says, yes, I need a guide. Thank you. I've learned that I am asking the wrong questions. I will try to think up some of the magical questions from now on. Somebody asked, oh, my Monday, the first Monday of the month, caregiver support group is at 6:30. And again, if you're interested, I'll send you the link and put you on the email list. We had a new member at the last caregiver group, and she said, the support group with Kathleen was so good. I went to my first support group on Monday. Thank you, Kathy. So that was for me. Sorry.
That was funny.
but everybody is very grateful, Dr. Wong, and it was a wonderful presentation. So no worries about the video and the audio. It's been recorded, and they can go back and turn the volume up as loud as they can and hear what you had to say.
And I want to say hi to Stephanie, because I see her looking very closely at her presentation. That big smile.
Okay, and if I can say one more thing, we have 2 weeks off, and then the first Saturday of November is the start of our next session. So I'll be sending everybody an email that has signed up for that session. If you didn't sign up for November sessions, then please go back in and re-register, and I'll be glad to include you in those programs. Dr. Wong, again, thank you so much. I'm so glad I finally got to get you. You were finally able to speak for me in one of my workshops.
So happy.
Thank you.
I'm happy today.
Good. Good. Great job. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
Goodbye.